Welcome to Connecting the Community podcast. I am your host, Marj Andre. I will be connecting you with people, organizations, and events that create community in and around Richmond Hill, a very culturally diverse community with lots of trees and streams and interesting people. On this podcast, I'm talking with Karen Pasieka and Claudia Galletta, two of the 17 artists that are part of the Artists Co-op Richmond Hill. This gallery and shop is at the historic Boynton House up at the Richmond Green from November 13th to December the 28th. It's open Thursdays to Sundays, 11 to 6, plus open until 8 p.m. during Saturday's Merry Marketplace. Last week, I talked to Wendy Emery and Kathleen Rogers, two of the artists that are up there. It was decided I'd like to talk to a couple of artists each week, so I am welcoming Karen and Claudia. I am glad that you are my second pair.
Glad to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for having us on your show.
You are both very welcome. I am so looking forward to a conversation. Got lots of questions about the art that you do and about how things are at the gallery. I would like both of you to introduce yourself and describe the art that you create. Claudia, please go first.
My name is Claudia Galletta. I make pottery. I've done pottery. I started pottery about 50 years ago. I did it for a few years and then I stopped because I wasn't connected to a community and I had no way of selling and I was lonely. So about 10 years ago, I went back to taking classes at Hill Potters Guild, and I've never looked back. I make mostly functional pottery. It's all tableware mostly, but lately we're taking mentorship program with Angelo DePetta, and everyone, or the group of us that are doing it, is expanding into different areas. So I'm very excited about all this new work that we're creating.
Very nice. And I do have some of your pieces.
Yes, you do.
Yes, very. Karen, tell us about you as an artist and what do you create?
Hi, well, I'm Karen Pasieka and I'm a polymer clay artist. And I make jewelry and shallow relief framed sculpture. And I've been working with polymer clay since I was maybe about 10 years old. It was gifted to me from my mom. So you can imagine kinds of things that I might have been making way back then. So it's changed a bit. It's something that I've never really given up on. Dabbled in all sorts of different art media, and I've always come back to the polymer clay, making ornaments and that sort of thing. And in 2007, I decided to open my own business, and it's called Subtle Details, in which I work with the polymer clay, making the jewelry, which is the polymer clay combined with sterling silver, and the shallow relief framed sculpture, which was something that I started doing because the opportunity came up to teach workshops with the then town of Richmond Hill. So my work is primarily floral themed. The jewelry is floral polymer clay, sculptured pieces combined with the sterling silver, and they're colorful pieces. And my art is primarily floral themed as well, with hits of landscape scenes and the occasional bit of architecture because I studied architecture in university.
Right. Well, I have seen your work at many times and it is delightful, I think is the best word I can think of to describe it. I love what you create.
Thank you.
Claudia, I read your artist bio and you do mention your Italian heritage. Is there anything from this heritage that comes across in your art?
Well, I don't know if it comes across in my art, but being a born Italian, I believe in family and sharing meals and sharing our family recipes and traditions for everyone to enjoy. And I love sharing not only with my family, but my table is shared with friends and acquaintances alike. And my door is always open. So serving recipes on unique, interesting tableware elevates the experience, I think, and feel that others might feel the same way. I like to create pretty dishes and platters and vessels of every kind.
Now, Karen, is there anything expressed in your background that's influenced you?
I think that my education in architecture has probably influenced the way in which I execute my art. So, for example, the name of my business is Subtle Details, and it's just sort of a philosophy of how I approach design. So I'm looking at, a piece of jewelry, and it's not, just a pendant that's hung from a simple jump ring. Maybe I have 3 jump rings combined, for example. It's just looking at those fine details and considering, how pieces are put together, um, both aesthetically and how they function as well. So I think that probably influences me a little bit. And
Both of you have recognized inspirations from nature. Can you talk about that and how do you experience nature? Karen?
yes, well, for example, I'm not sure which came first, whether it was the florals in my artwork and my jewelry, or if it was the other way around. But since being a homeowner, which has been a while now, I've gotten into gardening. So planting in my garden, flowers primarily, although we do plant tomatoes generally over the summer. But I do have this ambition of having a garden that is in bloom, from spring through till fall. I haven't quite figured that one out yet. But also the ambition is to have some flowers that, are cut flowers that I could bring into the house. And I haven't quite gotten there yet. But for example, I had a piece of art a few years back that I had titled, I Want These in My Garden. And they were 3 fairly large scale polymer clay dahlias with sketched stems and leaves.
Okay. Claudia, how do you experience nature?
Well, I love going for nature walks in and around fields covered with foliage, canopy of leaves, the woods in the fall, seeing all manner of texture, pebbles, flowers, and the color of water and waves. The hues of beautiful sunset, it's limitless. And though I can't draw, I try to impart some of that on my pieces: texture, structure, glaze colors, shapes. I try to mimic nature in my little way.
Okay. And do you have any tomatoes that you give Karen in your garden?
Do I have to?
I think you're Italian.
I I have a
Give
husband
me
that
some kale.
if you come in the spring, my husband will give you plants. Lots and lots of plants.
Okay. So, with your Italian heritage, I thought you have to have tomatoes.
Oh, my husband jars tomatoes and he makes 100 jars a year.
Good. Okay. Now, I am really curious about the material that you use. This may sound like a dumb question, Claudia, but what really is clay? Where does it come from?
Oh, it comes from riverbeds. It's just fine soil mixed with water. Riverbeds, your backyard, it can come from anywhere. But we purchase it. At our studio, we have 5 different types of clay that we use. They're fired at different temperatures. One is called the cone 6 firing. That's the highest temperature, goes up to 1200 degrees when it's fired with a glaze on it, which is vitrified glass. And we have one that goes to cone 10, which I believe is around 2000 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, clay it comes from the ground.
Okay. So, Karen, what is polymer clay?
So polymer clay it's a man-made clay and you bake it in an oven to cure. So it's a plastic actually. And some people might be familiar with the brand names Fimo or Sculpey. And it comes in these little wee packages, it's about 50-gram packages of various colors. I take those colors and then blend them together to create my own color palette to work with. So if you think of an artist, a painter with their paints would do the same thing, except that I have to blend it with my hands. But once the clay is cured, it's hardened. I can no longer work with it. But it does, depending on how thick the piece is, it does retain some flexibility. So it actually makes it pretty good for jewelry pieces because it's not as delicate or fragile as you might think it would be.
Okay. Also, I'm curious about how messy your work is. Karen, your biopic has you wearing a nice white blouse. So is creating art not for you, not messy?
It's not that messy.
Okay.
And the nice white blouse was because I needed to have pictures taken. It was always a big deal because I need to get my husband to help me out with that. And
Okay.
trying to take pictures of my working with this tiny little, because everything I make is small. It's hard to get me and the thing, like the thing kind of disappears in the headshot. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm not worried about what I'm wearing when I work with the polymer clay. I do get lots on my hands though. So, and it depends on the color. And if, for example, I had Vaseline on my hands because my hands get dry because I'm washing them all the time, I would get more clay onto my hands. And I do have to be careful in between mixing colors. I need to clean my hands, usually just with a baby wipe. Otherwise, the color will transfer from one piece of clay to another.
Okay. Now, Claudia, do you end up with clay under your nails, in your hair?
You should see first of all, you should see my apron.
Okay.
It's just, you can stand on its own. Yes, I make my pieces at home. So I spread it around the house. Wherever I go, I leave a trail. I have to change shoes from one room to another, where I work, on my clothes, in my hair, through my nails, all over the place. And it's even in my food, I'm sure, but thank goodness it's quite edible. I think you can eat a little bit, not hurt. You can't breathe it in. You can't breathe its dust, but you can eat it.
Okay. Okay.
It gets everywhere.
So where do you dry your pieces? Like, Claudia, do you have a kiln at home?
I do not have a kiln. I dry my pieces. My pieces are done when I make them, I trim them and I let them dry at my house. And then I take them over to our guild, to Hill Potters Guild. When it's completely dry, I do both firings. The bisque firing and then the glazed firing is done there. So, yeah. So I make them at home, but I fire them and glaze them at our guild.
Now, I'm thinking, Karen, you don't need a kiln?
No, I don't need a kiln. So polymer clay is, well, they say it's safe to bake in your oven and that sort of thing. But I do happen to have a kitchen in my basement with an oven that I reserve for baking my polymer clay because I'm baking fairly often. It's not just, the occasional weekend project. Yeah, it goes into my little oven and everything I make has to fit onto a cookie sheet, basically. So that sort of dictates the scale of the pieces that I can make. Although I'm starting to get into, and I have an ambition to make larger pieces, but it's sort of a kit of parts. Like I have to make, a bunch of little pieces and then assemble them together and create the composition after they've been baked.
Okay. I can see you maybe getting a bigger oven. So,
Just a bigger oven.
yeah, not going to work. Okay. Okay. I have one more silly question. What's your favorite color? Claudia.
I love blues.
Blues.
If
Okay.
you see my pieces, I have lots of blue in them. But I love to experiment with combinations of colors, and I'm really adventurous that way. So I try all kinds of different combinations, and sometimes they work, and sometimes they don't. But I love experimenting.
Okay, Karen, your favorite color?
It's hard to identify a favorite color. I do love lots of different colors. So, one day it might be orange, which might be a bit of a strange choice today. But my favorite color is probably in the teals. So I'm kind of into the teal, blue, green, olive green, tertiary colors, that sort of thing.
Okay, very good. Okay, I will come and look at your stuff with that in mind. So at the Artists Co-op, you've got lots of pieces there. Do you think more of your creations are gifts for oneself, or do you think people buy them for gifts for others?
I would say it's a mix of the two. This time of year tends to be gifts for others, but people do buy for themselves quite a bit. So especially when it comes to the artwork I have any of my artwork that is colorful, scenes depicting, flowers in a field, that sort of thing. That tends to be purchased for, like, the customers are purchasing it for themselves because it's a very personal thing. But I also have pieces that are larger scale, solitary white flowers. And they're purely about the form and the texture. And because it's white, it's really, it's a no-brainer. Like, you don't really have to guess whether it's going to go in someone's home. So that those tend to be purchased more so for gifts, but of course for oneself as well.
Mostly, I think, especially like Karen said, around this time of the year, people are purchasing as gifts. But quite often they'll say when they're choosing, they choose things that they would like for themselves, but end up either giving it away, but sometimes keeping it for themselves and coming back for another for their friend or family member.
Yeah, I thought you were going to give me permission. I always buy myself a Christmas present. So, yeah.
Come and get one.
Now, I am wondering what the conversations are like with the visitors at the gallery. Are there lots of discussions about thoughtful giving?
Actually, thoughtful giving is when you go to the trouble of, at least for the person that you know would like a certain something, and you go to the trouble of finding just the right thing. It gives you pleasure for giving it out, and it gives them joy, to remember you after the piece is in their home, and they're enjoying it, and every time that they use it, they think of you, right?
I like the idea, and I don't care who you're buying from, but I really like the idea of people purchasing from artists, from local artists, so that this is made by hand, and our heart and soul goes into making the pieces.
Yeah.
Like, we just you're giving sort of a piece of that artist to, your friend or family member, or to yourself. It does have extra meaning to.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Thanks for trying to define what that is, because can be an elusive concept. Now, part of this artist co-op are these workshops. Both of you are doing different workshops. Karen, can you describe the workshops that you were doing?
Well, I have two workshops that are scheduled. One is a white giant dahlia. So it is a sort of large flower that's about 5 to 6 inches in diameter. And we're going to be using just white polymer clay. So we're going to keep it simple from that point of view. We're not going to be blending any colors. And it's just going to be about working with our hands. And I'll be showing the technique of how to make the petals. And there'll be a couple of different ways in which students can do that, because, dexterity can be a little bit different. Some people find working with the clay one way works for them, and maybe a different way works for somebody else. So there's, some options there. And so the goal is that by the end of the workshop, you're going to have this beautiful flower made. And they are always beautiful. I've done many other workshops before, and everyone comes up with something that is gorgeous. And the wonderful thing about flowers is that they're organic. They're not perfect, right? You can have some that has a petal that's like lopping a little bit to the side or whatever, and they're wonderful. Everybody has something beautiful to go home with, except that when we're doing the workshop, so everyone's going to finish their piece and I'm going to have to label them, and I'll be bringing them back to my studio to bake them. And then they will return to the class about a week later for students to come and pick them up. And then the second workshop that is scheduled is a popular one that I've done before, and it is a polymer clay penguin ornament. So for that one, the students can choose what colors they would like to make their penguin out of, and they don't necessarily have to be black and white. I've made some that are fun colors, and our little penguin is about 2 to 3 inches tall. So it's a little guy. And so I'll teach everyone, of course, the techniques, and it's step by step, how this is how we make the body. And then here we're going to make the little penguin arms or wings or whatever they're called, and the feet, and so on and so forth. And he wears a hat, and it's a lot of fun, and they're really cute. And again, I'll take the pieces home and bake them, and then bring them back for customers to pick them up. And then they have a piece that, that they can keep for themselves or they can gift it away. And hopefully, I'm starting a trend here. Maybe some people will, be picking up the clay again and trying to experiment and make their own thing.
Those penguins, I've seen them and they're so cute. Just curious, like how long is the workshop?
They're 3 or 4 hours.
Okay, so it's not just a 1-hour workshop. Okay.
The workshops that we were doing last year, there was more prep work involved. So I would have to precondition the clay and pre-mix some of the clay colors. And now that students are going to have a little bit more time, they can maybe experiment with that a little bit and say, okay, well, let me try mixing some clay color and see what I come up with.
Now, Claudia, what about you? I had thought that you're doing pottery. You can't do a workshop. So tell me what you are doing.
I know. We had to figure this out. So what I'm doing is I'm making a Christmas tree. I'm bisquing it for each person. So they have a Christmas tree. It's about 6-7 inches tall, and it'll be bisqued. It'll be completely white. It'll have holes in it so that they can be lit inside, from inside. They can put lights on the inside or a candle, whatever. And also ornaments. They'll be doing 2 or 3 ornaments, and they'll paint them with acrylic paints so they can use their imagination and decorate them any way they like. And it's for children. Yeah. So after we're finished, they can take them right home. They won't fired again. Yeah.
Karen, I forgot to ask you, are your programs, your workshops intended for kids or adults or both?
Both, really. Last year I had some quite young students. For the younger children, let's say, 6 or 8-year-old, whatever. Then of course there would have to be a parent or guardian with them. It's good for both. It's good. And some young kids can really work with the clay. It's amazing what I've seen some little kids do.
Okay, you've got me very interested in your art creations. I'm so looking forward to seeing you up at the artist studio. I did want to ask you if there's anything else that you'd like to add.
I'd like to add that everyone should come and see us at Boynton. They won't be disappointed because we have quite an array of beautiful work, and it looks amazing this year. It's clean and bright and the pieces are just gorgeous. Every artist has beautiful, beautiful pieces. We'll find lots of gifts for sure.
Okay. Karen, would you like to add something?
Sure. I'd like to echo what Claudia just said. And we have a few new members this year, so you're going to see some new art. And of course, artists who have been in the in Boynton House in our pop-up gallery for the Artists Co-op, we all have new pieces that we're bringing to the show every year. There's something new to see, and there's something new to see, almost on a weekly basis because, as pieces get sold, then we are having to make more and bring more in. So there's definitely lots to see.
So definitely not the same old as last year.
Not at all.
Okay. This has been a great conversation and really, really enjoyed talking with both of you. But before we end, I have one question to ask you. Same question I ask all podcast guests. I would like you to name one thing you really like about this community. Claudia?
Me? Oh my gosh. It's the most wonderful thing. I mean, I'm retired, and it's the most wonderful group of people, friends actually, that we get along wonderfully. It's inclusive. Everyone helps each other. It's fantastic. I can't, and especially even with the potters. I mean, they've all become friends, and it's just you enjoy doing the thing that you love, and you share it with the people that do similar things that are as passionate as you are about what you do, what you create.
Okay. Karen, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would have to say the same thing. Ever since I started my business and started doing shows and, being an artist within Richmond Hill as well, absolutely. It is such a supportive community. If we're setting up, there's always somebody around who's willing to, help you out with something. If you're looking for a piece of advice or you need a tool or something, like it's just an incredible community. Of course, I love our co-op and the members of the co-op. And I've actually lived in Richmond Hill since I was born. So it's wonderful to be able to participate in this group, being an artist and having this small co-op artist community to be a part of. It's wonderful. I feel very blessed to be able to be part of this group. It's great.
Nicely said. Well, thank you, Claudia and Karen, for taking the time to do this podcast. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you for listening. I would appreciate you sharing this podcast. Consider emailing me at Marj, M-A-R-J, at marjandre.com. I would welcome suggestions for podcast guests. Let's stay connected.